and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I am Jason Postman Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson. Welcome to your Mind University, because you have stumbled onto the podcast where we take one character, construct, or question from popular culture and teach you everything you need to know about them in about an hour, except this week. Why, Jason?
Well, every once in a while, we did one last year. We're going to do a mailbag episode where we ask for people on our Patreon over at patreon.com/Jawiin. That's Jawiin. We asked friends on Twitter at GHL Podcast, and we asked people on Facebook.
And nobody showed up on
Facebook. Well, that's whatever. To give us some questions. And so we're going to answer some of those questions. We like to do this every once in a while. Check in with the listeners. See what they want, what they need. And the first question here comes from our Patreon, which, as I said, is a really cool place. Supports the podcast if you want to go check that out. And you can also get awesome extra podcasts, including Jason and Jeremy John About Justice League, which is our Justice League, the animated series review podcast that you can only hear over at patreon.com/Jawiin. So thanks everybody, all the super friends over there. We're going to start off with a Patreon question that comes from Allie Hennigan, who says, I really enjoy when you discuss cool costumes and designs. Do you think the X-Men films Fox made dropped the ball with costume choices? How effective do you think Marvel's MCU has been in comparison? Do you think Marvel will be able to execute X-Men costumes more true to the comics? Are there specific costume designs you'd really like to see?
I think we should save the second half of this.
We should. Allie asked a lot of questions. They're great questions.
Had two good thoughts in these.
Allie double dosed us on amazing questions. So let's answer the X-Men questions first. Ashley, how effective do you think, or do you think the X-Men films Fox made drop the ball with costume choices?
Here's the thing that you have to remember about when the Fox X-Men movies were made.
2000.
They were made in 1999. You know what was hot in 1999?
The
Matrix.
Whoa.
And also, quote, screen accurate, panel accurate costumes didn't play in a serious tone, and X-Men 1 is very serious, especially for comic book movies of the time. So I think them choosing to do the slimmed down pseudo cyberpunk black leather, or it's not real leather, I'm almost certain, pleather look, I think for the time was a smart choice. I still think those costumes look good on those actors.
I don't hate them. Like, there's a lot of people, and I think I
hate the wig work on those movies, but not the costumes.
There is a lot of post MCU now, because we're 20 years from these movies, where people are kind of like, because
we didn't even have Spider-Man by this point.
Well,
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is 2 years coming still.
Well, and that's an interesting comparison, because the Spider-Man costume is pretty close to the comic books. I still love that original costume. But I understand the point, because they're, to be honest with you, I think the biggest faux pas about them is that they're mostly black. But like your point, Ashley, again, you have to realize this is a direct response to how much Batman 1989 in his solid all black costume affected every Superman movie or superhero movie after it. So I don't think they dropped the ball.
And I do think that in the movies that have been made since then, they've made adjustments that are closer to comic book accurate. I am still holding up my favorite Wolverine costume is the brown costume, the brown and orange color palette, because it mocks up an actual Wolverine's design.
Let's go to this. So
I don't think Fox dropped. If you don't like them, that's totally cool. That's your opinion.
I don't think they dropped the ball.
I don't mind them.
I actually think they made the smart choice for the movie.
For the time, yeah.
I want to ask you this follow-up, because you talked about Wolverine brown and yellow, which is my favorite Wolverine costume as well. Will we see Wolverine in a cowl, like in a Batman cowl?
In my opinion, the move with Wolverine going forward, because we obviously know Hugh Jackman has put that to bed. Fuck Logan, let's do Laura as Wolverine. Adult Laura. That's what I want to see. I think that would be really great. I think that would be really interesting. And you could put her in a cowl, because she has worn a cowl before. I don't think they will put Wolverine in a cowl, though. No, to answer your question, I don't really think so. But I hope if they do Laura, I hope they put her in the blue and yellow. She has like a gray and black costume, which is not a bad costume. I just think the blue and yellow, I just like the blue and yellow a little bit better. But I don't know.
And to answer the question, of do I think the MCU will do better in comparison? I mean, I don't know. I will tell you this, and here's the thing, and it's a weird thing that exists only in X-Men more than any other comic book characters. Suicide Squad kind of touches on this a bit. A lot of the X-Men costumes, because X-Men has always had these legendary artists, I think only work in comic books.
I agree.
I don't think their costumes translate that well to live action.
Any little head wrap, like
we haven't seen Hawkeye with his little horny horns.
I meant more like Gambit, which is kind of the same thing that Wally West
the weird head
has,
cowl, the head
like,
cowl.
Or even like Falcon Cap has that.
Yeah.
They low-key don't work in real life.
We also, by the way, how many X-Men movies have we had? And we have yet to have seen traditional Magneto's costume.
Yeah.
And why? Because I don't think it works.
Do you think we'll get Jean Grey in a dress?
Which Jean Grey dress?
The green one. The Marvel Girl costume. The one that she's wearing right now in the comics. Her best costume.
You know, my guess is no, because it's a very Silver Agey. But I'll tell you, the ones that I think we might see pretty accurately?
Tell me.
I think we might see Nightcrawler's costume.
That's all I want.
Because it's very simple.
It is, yeah.
I think the simpler the costume design is better. I actually think we may never see Jim Lee's Cyclops with the weird yellow and blue, but I think we might see either the Cyclops costume where he has the X across his eyes, or the Cyclops costume from House of X, the one he has now, where it's mostly black and blue and it's just a bunch of lines.
Is that the full cowl costume? Because he also,
yes,
like, post-Marvel now he's got the full cowl.
But it's like Batman, so it's
a
little bit more viable. Like his hair doesn't come out.
I would like to see the X. I think the X is really cool.
Yeah, I also could see. You remember there was a long time where the X-Men, like the Kitty Pryde costume, where they always had the yellow and blue kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they sort of did that in First Class.
Yeah,
I think you could see costumes like that.
Those are like the new X-Men era costumes.
Yeah,
I would also like to see Storm in her white costume. That is my favorite Storm costume.
Oh, interesting. See, I think that's the one that you're the least likely to see, because
I said that's what I want to see.
Sure. I just don't know if the white would play on camera that well.
White is tough.
Yeah,
all white and black is tough, as we saw in Black Panther.
So I think we answered. Okay, so
Allie's second question.
Allie had a second little point question here. She said, separate point. Do you know anyone that has done major work in costume design that you could bring on the show as a guest sometime and talk about the job? Maybe what kind of comic costumes they would like to work with? Okay, so the answer is, I do know somebody. I know somebody who has worked in the Arrowverse.
Yes.
I don't know if you know the gentleman I'm talking about, because I think you're talking about. He helped to build the last season Arrow suit. And
I know that you know. I'm not thinking of Andy Poon.
Oh yeah, Andy Poon. Have we had Andy Poon on the show yet?
We have not. Who designed?
Andy designed, but I'm talking about.
I know.
There's a gentleman. I don't want to say. I don't want to say his name. But we know a guy that helped build the John Wesley ship new costume that they started using, and he did a bunch of Batwoman stuff and whatever. And he's excellent. He's an amazing creator, stuff like that. The one, I think it's a great idea, Allie. The one problem, and it's very similar to this issue, because that it's very visual.
Yeah. And
this is an audio podcast. If we were going to do something like that, I kind of feel like it'd have to be a video. And Geek Wrestling is a podcast, then it's not a video podcast. I mean, great idea. I just don't know how that would translate. So I would say that's probably less likely.
We've had on our list of episode topics like best superhero costumes for a long time, like a male and a female design. But it's tough, because when we do regular comic books, we can focus more on the story. Yes. I know we do talk about costumes, and we do share the pictures of the costumes, particularly the more ridiculous ones.
But that would be like an all visual episode, and it'd be really tough.
But I will say, Allie's a patron, so maybe that's something that we do on the Patreon.
That could be a thing. Yeah, sure. Ashley,
soft yes.
Soft yes. Ashley, let's hit us off with some more questions.
Next, we have a question from Sarah Hager, who says, what kind of qualities do you think we're lacking from writing post-crisis, and what kind of qualities do you think were gained?
Okay, so Sarah's specifically talking about the 1985 event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, where DC Comics had a multitude of infinite worlds, then the Antimatter ate them all, and we only had one. Ashley, I have a couple specific answers to this. Do you mind if I just kick it off?
No, please.
So, the great thing about writing post-crisis is that there was a real focus, I feel, on a couple characters in terms of their character, in terms of their internal journey. And very specifically, John Byrne's Superman and George Perez's Wonder Woman. I think they rebooted, they allowed them both to go back to square one. And I think it really helped both characters. And I think post-crisis DC Universe also allowed the characters to just be a bit more grounded. And, because the Silver Age is all about, just kind of various just craziness and Superman.
It's one-offs, yeah.
Superman's got a horse and the Riddler's out of the jail again, and we turned into gorillas. It's all kind of stuff like that. And I think that post-crisis, they really worked on getting that out of there and going grounded. Now, I do feel that by the time we got to the mid-90s, it went too far. They took it too far. But I think that was qualities that were gained, I think, in the writing post-crisis. I don't know if anything was really lacking. I mean, I will say that I understand why they got rid of the multiverse at the time, but I always have never seen the multiverse as a weakness. I've always seen it as a strength. Well, what would your answer be?
I would say something pre-crisis that I think we're lacking right now was a carefree attitude. And I think something that is charming about the comics before then is that continuity was not an issue.
Nobody cared.
You could tell a Flash story. It didn't matter if it scanned with the major event that was going on in Justice League. That is a thing that really annoys me about contemporary comics. Is that read the next issue of Loki in Thor. And I'm like, but I'm reading Loki. I don't want to read Thor. I'm reading Loki or Journey to Mystery, like whatever. I just reread Kieran Gillen's Journey to Mystery. And there's a lot of them that end with like, just check out the next part of the story in Thor. And I was like, absolutely not. I am reading here for Loki.
I'm reading Journey into Mystery, and you can't make me read Thor.
Or how in Greg Pak and Aaron Cooter's Action Comics, they would suddenly have to deal with...
Oh, they got hampered by every
major event. Superman suddenly... And to
and
their
that book
credit...
was fine on its own.
That book is excellent on its own. To their credit, I think they dealt with it with great aplomb as well as they could do, but they got knocked left. Like, you'd be in the middle of a fantastic story, and then suddenly, like, Superman would have to go off and fight Doomsday for, like, a couple issues.
No, that was Superman turned into Doomsday.
That's right, yeah.
Which is not a terrible idea, but also kind of goofy.
But it didn't scan with, like, the tone of that book or what they were. That's a thing. So,
I think it was called Doomed.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that is something that DC purports to want to be doing now, but there is too much editorial oversight to just let people tell individual stories. So they're trying to shunt those more over into places like Black Label. So that's something that I thought was a really big pro. It did get a little out of hand, which is why Crisis on Infinite Earths happened. Pre-crisis. Post-crisis, something that I think is a strength, which can also be a weakness, is that it is more focused on being a shared universe. Like, the 90s and the 2000s Bat family is my most favorite Bat family, and they interplayed well, but you didn't have to jump from Nightwing to Birds of Prey to Robin to understand. If you were reading an event, it would help, which is why when you get No Man's Land now, like, you will get these issues inserted.
It filled in the spackles, I like to say. Like, 90s Bat family was like, if you were reading Robin... and then you read the entire... You could just read Robin.
And that would be a great story.
And that would be fine, even though Robin had like a Contagion issue or something like that.
Exactly. But if you read everything else, it was a richer tapestry. Yep. And I think that is... I like overarching narratives more than I like one-off episodes or one-off issues. Although, again, there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you get hampered down by that too much, then, you could use a little more freedom. So that's my answer. Tom Trainer, making his second appearance in this batches of mailbags, this episodes.
Well done.
Asks, other than hook-handed Aquaman, since that's come up a few times, what are you saying, Tom, that we repeat the same answers? How dare?
Hook-handed Aquaman. Well done, Tom.
What are some of your favorite superhero costume redesigns? I mean, Hook-handed Aquaman is a really great redesign. What, if anything, do you think that redesign added to the character? The first thing that always comes to mind for me, and it was a redesign that came with a new person taking up the mantle, is Cassandra Kane Batgirl. It's my all-time favorite Batgirl costume.
The full masked
the full
head
ninja
cowl.
costume with the stitches on it. I thought it was so cool. I would love to see it in a movie, and obviously it borrowed very heavily from Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. But that design is really, so that one always comes to mind. And then we spoke about this earlier. I think Cyclops with the red X.
Yeah, the Chris Bacalo.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Jean Grey's Marvel Girl is my favorite Marvel costume. And I will say everyone in the Hellfire Gala new designs is an absolute snack.
Fair enough.
Jason, you can't say hook-handed Aquaman.
Well, I think the obvious answer is hook-handed Aquaman. No,
or Nightwing.
No, you brought up a great thing of like establishing the personality. I mean, it's hard for me not to just say Daryl Banks's Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern costume.
Yeah, which is the same thing, right? New character, new costume.
Which shows that his ability as an artist. I have a bunch of answers for this, actually, if you will indulge me.
Sure.
So Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, like the weird design, the crab mask, it like shows his personality, that he's not just fitting in with the core.
They make a joke about that in Young Heroes in Love.
They do.
Bonfire's like, and he's got this weird mask now.
Yeah, they do. Another great redesign, I think, and I have two Spider-Mans. One is the Mark Bagley Ben Reilly costume in the 90s.
You love that costume, which becomes
Mayday Parker's,
right.
but it's where it's what the Iron Spider of the MCU took design, where it's like the spider emblem takes over most of his chest.
It's a really intelligent play on that classic design.
It's a nice update to the classic design, and I also love that you get to see the web shooters on the outside. The only thing of that's a little weird is the half boots, but whatever. And that's why, like, I think Patrick Gleason in his most Spider-Man Beyond kind of sort of did an update of that update.
Yeah.
My other Spider-Man, I think it's one of the best Spider-Man designs ever. Not quite a redesign, but it's a playoff of Spider-Man. Rick Leonardi's Spider-Man 2099 is, I think, such an eye-catching, very 90s. Yes, I know there's a skull on the chest, but like that tells you that this is not your daddy's Spider-Man, that this is a future Blade Runner-y Spider-Man.
I would put Silk in that same category as well. I think Silk, of all the Spider women, has the most beautiful costume design.
I'm also going to say, like, it's a character that I'm not a big fan of, but one of the best redesigns ever, in my opinion, is when 2012 they updated Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers into
with the sash,
and they made her like the uniform. They made her like an Air Force uniform. It is like an amazing because before that she was just in a bathing suit.
Yeah.
You know,
I think Invincible gets a great costume update where he gets the blue and black. I mean, I like the yellow better, but the blue and black is very cool.
I also love Sam Wilson's Captain America costume.
It's cool.
It's a really cool design. And to be honest with you, I kind of think all of Sam's Falcon costumes are kind of dopey. And I think that, like,
somewhere Thomas Barham is freaking out.
Yeah, that's fine, Tom. That's fine. But I'm not a big fan of any costume with a bare chest on a man or a woman.
That's fair. So you're not going to say the Fantastic Four where Sue has the cutout boob window.
Well, she has the four. That's the boob window.
I know.
She's basically wearing a bathing suit too, and you're like, you're going in the negative zone. You don't know what that radiation does.
Yeah.
You know, cover your arms, woman. Anyways, one of my favorite redesigns, though, and it's one that doesn't get enough attention, I think, is I love the Superman Rebirth Patrick Gleason Superman costume.
Yes, you do.
It's very simple. As I said on the podcast, and I don't care about this debate one bit, I do think the underwear on Superman is outdated, but I also understand the design and art need, that there needs to be something there to break it up. But I also think Patrick Gleason did this really smart thing where he just made the costume blue, gave him a red belt, gave him those little lines. I just thought it was so simplified. And you were just like, yeah, the things we love about Superman are blue suit, S shield, red cape. That's it. And that's what that costume was. And it's more about deleting the designs, but I love that update. And I kind of wish that was still Superman's costume. I think they've tried to update his costume, every like especially a lot in the last 30 years, but they keep falling back on the underwear. Like they're so afraid of getting rid of this underwear that is a 100-year-old concept. But I thought that was the best one where I was like, that's the costume. Like right there. There it is.
Here's one that's not comics and they're not strictly speaking superhero, but in terms of redesign, I think the new Ducktales redesign.
The character models, you mean?
It's really like, it's very subtle.
The new Darkwing the new Darkwing costume design is really good.
Yeah, but like full confession, there's a Darkwing Duck action figure sitting behind Jason, but also
and a launch pad.
It's true, but also you talking about like the sort of slimming down and like a more minimalist, I guess, take on it made me think of that.
Launchpad actually fell over, I noticed.
Webby is a completely different character.
Get on that, Intern Brago. Intern Brago cat is in the studio.
Is he sleeping?
Yeah, he's curled up. Fix it. Don't look at me. Fix it. Oh, I'm going to fire that guy.
All right, next question.
The next question is a very interesting one from Nathan McKenzie, who asks, Justice League or the Avengers, which team would you rely on to save the world? This is a very easy question.
Justice League.
Yeah, of course.
Look, Jason and I definitely have a little bit of a DC bias in terms of our taste, but the Justice League has actual gods or like people of godlike strength.
Yeah.
So with Superman and Wonder Woman, you trump the Avengers every time.
Just with Superman.
I know, but they have Superman and Wonder Woman and sometimes Green Lantern and sometimes Martian Manhunter.
No, they're gonna save the world, Nathan. Justice League.
Yeah.
I don't need a roided out soldier. You know what I'm saying?
How dare!
I like Captain America, but come on.
The next question comes from Adam Grunther, who says, why do you think that it has become less common nowadays to recast a character when their actor leaves? Because agents are weird? I don't know. I don't know the answer to this.
I have a theory.
I wish I did because, and maybe it's because I'm a James Bond fan. Maybe it's because I'm an actor. So I'm like, if someone wants to play Barry Allen, then fire whoever else and they can play Barry Allen. I just picked a character out at the top of my head. I wish that we were more okay with this. Doctor Who and James Bond have set a wonderful precedent for it. But okay, tell me your conspiracy theory.
And I've said and I think I've said on this podcast several times that I would be just fine if you recasted Indiana Jones.
Comic books do it every time a new artist comes on.
Yeah. Here is my theory. And I blame this 100% on the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I know some people would be like, would they have recast with Ed Norton and Don Cheadle? Yes, they did. In phase one. But I don't think they've recast a major role since then. Like, can you think of a major role? I can
think of the ones I would have liked to have been recast.
But I'm talking about like a title character.
No, absolutely not.
So what I think this is I think this is exclusively a modern of the last 10 years, created by Marvel, created by Disney, and every other companies have adopted it, where executives look at the actors as sort of the way that studios look at IP. Right now in Hollywood, it's been a problem for like the last 5 years where the reason why you keep seeing reboots and sequels and movies of podcasts and stuff like that is because executives are unsure of the money gamble on an unknown property. I think executives are also afraid to take a chance on recasting Iron Man. When I think about it. In the 90s, we had Batman. In 4 movies, we changed Batman 3 times. And the only movie that was a failure was the last one. And I don't think it was George Clooney's fault at all. So it was just fine. And James Bond has proven, Doctor Who has proven that a franchise will continue and it does not matter. And I think superhero comic books are the exact same thing. Like I think there's so many opportunities that you could recast. We could still have Iron Man. Now I know
the closest thing that I can think of, I've been thinking about this for a while, of a modern actor that we recast was There was a day player in the pilot of Arrow who played Sarah Lance.
Oh, yes. And then in season 2, they recast
her. Where whenever she popped back up, they recast her as Katie Lotz. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, they didn't do that until season 2, because it was season 2 when they brought her as a full cast.
That's right.
Yeah. But the only time you saw her in season 1, it was like...
when she was drowning. It was a flashback.
It was a brunette.
Yeah.
It was some actors we've never seen before.
Yeah. I bet she mad. Katie Lotz be directing episodes now.
She's still on a television show. Yeah, like 10 years later. Yeah. But, and I know a lot of people will be like, well, only Robert Downey can play Iron Man. Yes, he does a great job. And I'm glad that we got to see his story, but I also think there is another actor out there that can handle that role.
I mean, I think if you say that, I would encourage you to rephrase it as I would only like to see Robert Downey Jr. play Iron Man.
My preference
because
is
it's foolish to think that he's the only human person in the entire world of all the actors all over the world who has the skill set to do it. That's just not true.
I will also point out that there will be a point, it will happen, where Marvel and Disney will do sort of alternate versions of Captain America or Iron Man, or like we might get
What If is about to drop.
Yes, with the multiverse, they're going to have their cake and eat it too, where they're like their storyline is going to continue, but then they're also, I guarantee you, they're going to be like, well, what if we did teenager Tony Stark or Ultimate Iron Man, and then we just got a brand new actor, and then those stories can be concurrent, and then if they're
going to say it worked for us so well in Solo, let's try this again.
Yeah, they tried it, didn't they? They did.
They certainly tried.
They tried it. I also don't blame the problems of Solo on that actor, Aiden Killerich or something like that. I
am not going to pretend that I know that man's name. But no, he didn't write the movie. No. He just took the job. I would have played Han Solo.
Cast me. I'll do it.
Absolutely.
You should have played Han Solo. Why didn't you play Han Solo?
They can call me anytime.
All right, sure. The number is 587-212-3434.
You just stalked some nice person we don't know.
I don't know. I don't think we have another. I think it's executives. I think it's executives being afraid of the recasting. And I honestly think they shouldn't be afraid of it.
I agree. We got to move on.
Who cares? All right. Next question, Ashley.
The next one is, I'm sorry, Ramon. You are so lovely. You've been a patron for a long time, but my Spanish is terrible.
Oh, okay, so fun fact, because Ramon is an excellent patron.
A lovely, lovely friend.
Ramon, by the way, also gives us, I believe he's in Mexico, if I remember right. Yep. He has given us so many great questions for Jason and Jeremy John about Justice League on the Patreon. I think
we featured him every single time we do a mailbag round as well.
I attempted his name on that podcast.
And did he take pity on you and tell you how to pronounce it?
No, he said I got pretty close.
Okay, then you read it.
All right, so I'm going to try it again, Ramon. I apologize. Here's Ramon's full name.
We do this with love and affection.
We do this with mucho amor. I know that's not right.
Mucho amor. That's for all of your...
Ramon Fernandez Zagotia. I'm going to guess that's
Zagotia?
Yeah.
Mucho.
He said, what are your favorite things to come out of making this podcast? Geek History Lesson. Excellent question, Ramon.
Excellent
and I apologize
question
for butchering
that it comes from Ramon, and we talked about how wonderful he was before we did that, because my favorite things that have come out of making this podcast is the friends that we've made.
The friends along the way.
I'm sure that sounds like saccharine, but like it's really true. Like, former podcast guest Victoria Male, we only met because she was a fan of the podcast, sent me a really professional email and asked me to be on her podcast, Your Biggest Fangirl. And now she's one of our close friends, and we went to celebrate her birthday with her.
Spoilers.
And I know. Spoilers. She was born once. Like, that's my favorite stuff. And then getting to have people on where we can share part of our conversations, like having Dan Jurgens on was really awesome, and he was so lovely. So like that stuff is my favorite stuff. I mean, panels and conventions, like those are all nice things too, but what really lasts are like super friends like Ramon and Tom Trainer and David Skelton and Jordan Dunn, like just amazing people who stay in our lives all these years because we scream into microphones every week.
I was going to say my favorite thing coming out of this is seeing gentlemen and ladies like Ramon keep popping up. Like when we do things like this and we start recognizing names, or when we do a Kickstarter, we recognize a name. We're like, oh, I know. Oh man, that's where they live. Or, that's my thing.
Oh, I remember this person from Twitter or.
And I also it's my favorite thing that we can goof around. It feels it makes you feel like you're sort of creating inside jokes with your friends. That's what I feel like. And that the Mine University students, I mean, yeah, I know that's a really bad answer, but I like that we can goof around and we can make all kinds of things and crazy announcements and, all kinds of weird things. And you guys like know what we're talking about and we know all kinds of things and we... Oh, sorry.
Jesus, that was loud.
That was the wrong sound effect.
I will say, because I know that's your favorite thing, Jordan Dunn does love it when a ring ring comes through. If you shoot Ramon, I'm going to be so upset. Hello?
Hello, Ashley.
Woher kommst du?
What?
Woher kommst du?
Speak American.
Ich komme aus Deutschland.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm here to speak to Ashley Victoria Robinson.
I just wanted to show off that I've been learning German on Duolingo.
Oh, you sound impressive.
Thank you. I'm trying to sound more like your boyfriend, Kurt Wagner.
You sound like a lovely lady of the Deutschland.
Thank you.
I just want to call in Ashley because I wanted to say, a lot of people I noticed. Tex Willerman here. I'm on the Mailbag episode. I noticed a lot of people said that I did not make an appearance on episode 375 of the podcast, and they were disappointed.
What episode was that? Oh, the Dan Jurgens episode.
375. I just said it.
Yeah, a lot of people also...
You got wax in your ears?
Probably.
Yeah, you probably do.
A lot of people also tell me that there's no Piggly Wigglies in Texas.
Well, they don't know a goddamn thing. That's what I say. I'm real quick, Ashley. I want you to know this phone call is sponsored by a new product that I just bought, A&P Teas. Remember, Ashley, if you check the flavor, you check the price. You see how much you get and how much you save with A&P Teas.
Isn't A&P a competitor of Piggly Wiggly?
No, it's a new tea brand that I bought. Yeah, I came in.
It's a grocery store.
Fine tea actually shouldn't be expensive. That's why I bought it. We have Nectar tea. We have our own tea. I've checked it. I've known.
Where are you reading this ad copy from?
Mrs. John W. Delory of Framingham, Massachusetts, who says that she actually saved 30 cents on a package of 100 tea bags.
Do you respect people from Taxachusetts?
I said Massachusetts. What's Taxachusetts?
That's the Simpsons joke.
I should make that.
How about Missouri?
Do you think I can make? I'll be dead in the ground before I respect Missouri. Do you think I should make a new state called Taxachusetts?
Sure. I don't even know what that joke comes from either. Are taxes high in Massachusetts?
How would I know? I wouldn't live in that Yankee place.
That's true. But you'll quote someone from there, so clearly your ethics are...
Look, if Mrs. John W. Delory of Framingham, Massachusetts will buy my Nectar tea, new brand that you can find at all 6 locations...
What type of nectar?
Huh?
What type of nectar?
Bug.
Bugs don't make nectar, flowers make nectar.
They do in Texas, Ashley.
Ew. I mean, Texas is kind of scary. But...
Yeah, I mean, it is a scary wasteland of apocalyptic proportions, especially since we can't keep our power on half the time.
That's a good steakhouse, though.
It has a great steakhouse. It has 6 Tex Piggly Wigglies that now serve A&P Teas, the new company in the Willerman Commodities Company.
The Willerman Commodities Company.
The Willerman Commodities Company, everybody.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Remember, fine tea needn't be expensive. That's all I got.
Remember when we used to give out tea on the Patreon?
We did. All right, goodbye.
I found 2 pounds of that recently in the back of our cupboard.
Click.
Now we're done. Patreon questions. And we're going to move on to Twitter.
So there's the answer to your question, Ramon.
Seriously, where did you find that ad copy?
Huh? What are you talking about?
I hate you so much right now. I'm going to flip this.
You maintain the illusion, Ashley. You maintain it. By the way, I just want to let everybody know out there in the world that Ashley and I have begun talking about the holiday special this year.
And yeah.
Buckle up, babies.
Let me just say a lot of screaming. And a lot of breaking.
A lot of like what you just heard probably is going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the next question.
These are Twitter questions. The first one is from @USAHistory101, who says, James Gunn has talked about the possibility of a DC Marvel crossover film. What do you think the likelihood is of this actually happening? Which characters should appear in a crossover film? Love the show.
Well, thank you for loving the show. To be honest with you, I think the likelihood is zilch. I mean, I just don't think corporate Warner Brothers and corporate Disney is, I don't know why I said that weird.
Disney
is going to ever make a co-production. I don't think it's going to happen.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you were going to do it, though, just do JLA Avengers.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think James Gunn was just looking for a publicity push. So that's why he said it. And it
good for his publicist.
It picked up a lot of headlines, so good for him.
Next question comes from Joe Brown, who says, as writers, what do you think are the essential elements of a Green Lantern story?
I'm very curious about your answer to this question.
I think a team element. I like the idea of the core very much. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's on or around like OA or the training facilities or anything like that. But I like it when there's a couple Green Lanterns involved. I loved, if you remember from our Blackest Night Club series, I really liked the Green Lantern Corps episodes the best. So I think an element of camaraderie is very important. I think perhaps more than a Bat Family character, your objective, like your obstacle that you need to overcome, needs to be very clear, and it needs to be something that can be reflected in both personal growth and physically. Mm-hmm. Because of course, every character needs an internal journey over the course of the issue and then the storyline. But also with Green Lantern specifically, because of the constructs, you got to be able to like hit it with a baseball bat.
Fair. That's a very fair answer.
I think maybe more than any other character besides Superman, the character, whoever your lead is, needs to have a very clear hero's journey internally and externally. And then I think the other element is to make Kyle Rayner the lead. That's all you need to make a great Green Lantern story. Jason?
I think a Green Lantern story, whether you have a singular Green Lantern, or a group, always needs to be based around the emotionality of overcoming fear. Mm-hmm. No matter what, it's about willpower. And you need to figure out, this is essential in every Green Lantern story, because I think most Green Lantern stories come about pew, 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 pew. And I think that it needs to be about overcoming your own fears.
Yeah, for a group of heroes.
Physicalizing that with energy constructs.
I think the Green Lanterns of Earth rarely hold up that sort of Apollonian ideal, unfortunately.
I agree. I agree.
And our last question, because no one on Facebook deigned to ask us anything,
Jesus,
comes from the Geeks with S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast, who ask, why do you think there's so much interest in trying to do evil Superman stories, either with the character Injustice or in reference Invincible?
I have a very excellent answer.
I assumed you had a strong take on this.
That's why I wanted to put this. This is our last question of the episode. Superman stories are always reflective of the time period we're in. Mm-hmm. The reason why I think Superman stories now are leaning towards injustice and evil Superman, and there's even a little bit of that in Superman and Lois this season, I bet, where they're like flashing off to this other world.
Well, or even think about Brightburn.
Yeah,
which is literally like evil Superman.
Well, I
even
think about there was an Arrowverse crossover a couple years back that had an evil Superman, right?
Yeah.
It's because I think when times are stressful and the world is tough and we don't think the world is getting better as a collective consciousness, I think writers tend to lean, and readers tend to lean against the hopefulness, the symbol, the purity of Superman. And I find that so interesting. Even Homelander from The Boys is an evil Superman. Mm-hmm. But that's because, I mean, think about it. We've been in a pandemic for a year and a half now. Mm-hmm. Depending on what you believe, people think climate change is getting worse.
Your mileage on your world leader may have varied over the last couple electoral terms. Not only in America, world over.
Yeah, it seems like, the general consensus, it kind of seems like the world is tending more towards corpocracy.
Yeah.
Where corporations are controlling us.
Yeah, rich white people just learned about racism.
Exactly. There's all these issues. And so when you look out at the world, I think most people are like, I don't believe Superman could hold the line in his purity and his hope and his humanity. And I think that's why we go towards evil Superman, because we think evil Superman reflects the times, or we don't think there is hope for the future. And I would argue that is when we need pure and hopeful Superman stories the most, primarily because Superman was created in 1938 during the Great Depression.
Right. As the Second World War was ramping up.
Yes.
With a huge anti-Semitic wave. In
one of the darkest times in human history, Superman was created. And he was created as, and you can scream at me and say that politics are not in this. Superman literally says in his first 10 issues, I am a warrior for social justice. He says it. Well, he doesn't.
Yeah, he beats up a landlord.
I think he says I'm a champion. I don't think he says a warrior, but he says he's fighting for. He beats up a landlord. He beats up a wife beater. He threatens the governor from capital execution. He does all these things, and he's looked at as a beacon for hope and justice, and that the world will get better. And that's where I think you need Superman the movies the most. I actually was talking to Jeremy and Jason John about Justice League podcast co-host Jeremy Skinner. That was a long introduction.
Yes, it was.
Jeremy's probably listening. Hello, sir. I was talking to him about this yesterday where I said that I actually think right now is the perfect time for that Superman story. Mm-hmm. And I've always said for years that I've always loved and I'd always want to do and see a Superman story set in the year of his creation, in 1938. And to be honest with you, I think this would be the perfect time.
Great.
Think about showing Superman bringing hope to America in the Great Depression, pre-World War II. I think that, like, give it the vibes of Captain America, the First Avenger, the Rocketeer, the Iron Giant. Give it those vibes. And I think it would be, like, such an uplifting movie. I think we need hopeful Superman more than ever, but I think that's the reason why we see evil Superman more than not. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know if I can say it any better than that.
Okay.
But also, Invincible was in development hell for a long time.
Yeah.
So, Invincible was created in 2002, 1 or 2.
2003,
like, Invincible was created, at this point a generation ago, arguably. So I know the TV show just came out, but his inception was or Omni-Man's inception was it's a little long in the tooth compared to like the example of Injustice. But I love that show, and that's it.
Hey, Ashley, it's Tex Willimer again. I just wanted to really just clarify that I think that I should probably rename my A&P teas to Tex teas. Just going to throw that out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, when there's a cool, tingling sensation from the first sip to last, and the flavor is so deep down and satisfying, for less than a cool scented glass, you need to drink Texas teas. Tex, T-E-X''S. Teas. Texas teas, get it?
Tex, we need to leave in like 24 minutes and we still have an extra to record.
Oh, boy. Howdy. All right. Well, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
See you later.
Bye.
Don't forget. Refreshing iced tea for less than a cool cent a glass. Goodbye.
Oh, my God. If you enjoyed any of the madness that we talked about here, you can go to geekhistorylesson.com/recommended reading. I will have recommended reading there. Some of the stuff that we mentioned in this episode. Obviously, we don't have a traditional recommended reading.
We should have Tex's book.
Sure. We'll have his tea.
Would anybody want a Tex Willerman t-shirt? I'm just throwing that out there. I would love a Tex Willerman t-shirt just for my own sensation.
Sure. Let us know.
Yeah. All right, there you go. All right, we're going into the honor roll. That's where if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we will read your review on the air. We'll leave it on Apple Podcasts, and it'll help people find us in the search engine. So, Ashley, who's reading or who's joining the honor roll this week?
The first person joining the honor roll is Brajan the Gaijin, who says, overall, great. There's some disrespect of subjects that one or both of the hosts are not very interested in, but overall, it's entertaining and informative with some great book recommendations at the end.
Okay.
And next joining is Gerald O88, who says, love it. Love the show. Jason, please stop interrupting Ashley when she's hosting. You waste so much time interrupting her and sidetracking. Let her love goodness. I don't know what that means. Love the show. Besides that, keep up the great work. So, Gerald O88 and Brajan the Grajan, thank you for trying our patience and welcome into the Teacher's Lounge. Jason, what is going on in the Teacher's Lounge today?
A class on what actual interrupting is about. 101. Especially for old Gerald there. That's what's going on in the Teacher's Lounge. Not money fun.
To be fair, we do say you can write whatever you want.
Oh, I know.
And we will read it.
Oh, I know.
But we don't say we'll accept it with good grace.
I'm 100% there. So
thank you for reviews. If you would like to hear your name and your teacher, you can go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes. It still pops up when you type in iTunes on your little Mackety Mac.
Yeah, but they keep saying they're going to get rid of it. That's why we say Apple Podcasts.
Please leave us 5-star reviews. We will read whatever you want. And truly,
we've read some pretty scathing reviews on this podcast so far.
I'm going to put this out there. If someone just came on and was like, screw you guys, I hate this podcast, 5 stars, I'd read it. I'd find that hilarious.
Yeah, we're going to read it. Yeah, it's true. Hey, it's one of those things where it's like, if it's a give and take. If you can complain about the podcast.
Absolutely.
You can complain about stuff like that, but you're going to get some heat right back on you. Buckle up. This is no Texas tea right now. This is Firetown. All right. So thank you all for listening. Don't forget that you can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those places. You can find us on social media. Ashley, where can they find the podcast on social media?
You can find us on geekhistorylesson.com, facebook.com/geekhistorylesson, or on Twitter at GHL Podcast.
Don't forget to follow Ashley on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley V. Robinson.
Did you forget?
No, I weirdly was going to say Instagram.com/Ashley V. Robinson. And then my mind went, that's stupid. Don't be a dummy. So that was my pause. No, I did not.
That's what I would like as an iTunes review. That's stupid. Don't be a dummy.
Somebody write it.
5 stars.
They're pretty good when th're not being stupid and a dummy. 5 stars. You can find me on podcasts and Instagram and Twitter at Jawiin, at Jawiin. And for the hashtag stick around, where you stick around all the plugs, Ashley, I found you can find ad copy for old stuff if you just go to Pinterest and Google old ad copy.
Really?
Yeah, I found a whole bunch of them.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and A&PTs is a very popular brand, apparently. So there you go.
Wow.
Yep.
Thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. You're listening, and thank you for all the awesome questions. You guys were great. Both these episodes were really great that we recorded the mailbag. I don't know if you're going to hear them in a row or not. So this statement may not make sense, but thank you for those questions anyway. For Geek History Lesson, I am Jason, Texas T. Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson. And Professor Jason, would you please dismiss the class?
Oh, boy. Hold on. Oh, don't have it anymore. I don't. That's all I can get. I'm just going to give you the simple goodness of dismissing. Oh, what is happening here, Ashley? I'm just going to shoot the gun.